safety measures put in place. Instead, they raised the rates for adults. Okay, I'm going to leave that one off because that's not specifically Marlene. Do your research. Purchased a seasonal trailer there and immediately had suspicions about the GM. She's a salesperson through and through. Ask about every single fee you might have to pay, including how much it costs to add people to your site contract. They take commissions on all sales. Watch for the gimmicks about site location. We were charged over $4,000 for a lake view, in addition to the trailer fee, and I couldn't see the lake. Right across the street where there was an actual view, there was no fee. Ownership doesn't acknowledge you, and if you complain about anything, you're essentially setting yourself up to be labeled a troublemaker. Let's talk about the wind now. Okay. That's things I've mentioned before about the park itself. Don't be fooled by the great view and pictures of the beach. My family with 3 small kids were seasonal for 2 years at Knights Beach. And the only nice thing was the beach. I have no idea why they call it a resort. Jumping ahead here, Marlene lied to us and tried to up the price on a different site we wanted, even though she already told us we could have it. So, yeah, I have a problem with Marlene Allen. I've been questioned about this. One person saying, how could you pick on Ms. Allen? She's a lovely person. Well, as far as I know, because I don't know, Marlene may be a wonderful person. She may be a terrific mom. She could be the best friend you could ever ask for. But I don't know her that way. I know her as the general manager. The general manager of Knights Beach Resort. Knights Beach Resort down in Dunnville, Ontario. I know her as the person who gave me a sales pitch to purchase a trailer at Knights Beach Resort. I know her as the person who gave me a sales pitch that was full of falsehoods. Most of what she claimed we could do. Most of what she promised. Most of what she stated as fact turned out to be completely false. Those qualities of the park that seemed dear to us, they vanished. Then the statements were denied. Emily E. wrote, sneaky switch of site, bad customer service, dead fish social distancing. But remember, we're just talking about the general manager right now, not the other problems with the park. When we got there, we found out that we switched our site without informing us at all. When we asked why this happened, the general manager only half pretended to care and said this is something that happens all the time. She said she'd look into it, why I wasn't emailed or called in advance. So of course, I never heard back from her. There's another one from Wanda K. Not complaining specifically about Marlene, but it sounds like a bunch of things that she was promised by Marlene that never actually happened. Ashley R. wrote, after camping here, I realized that all of the glaring positive reviews must be for somewhere else. This place is nothing to brag about. The worst experience ever. We went for a camping trip in July of 2017, so this is going back a few years. Still the same management, though. And arrived on a Friday. The Saturday morning, my husband and I decided to wake up early with our young son and pack up and leave. So Marlene is essentially, through the park's lawyer, she's called me a liar about my friend's situation that I was directly involved with. Called me a bad person for the claims I've made. Now, I'm not calling Marlene a bad person. I don't know if she is or is not a bad person. It's none of my business. Don't really care. I don't even think of her as a liar, per se. Or a manipulator. I think to some extent, we accept the proverbial used car salesman as just a person doing their job. Just a guy making the sale. To some extent, we just accept this. If the car breaks down 50 feet off the lot, that is when we make a stronger judgment. But if they take care of the problem, if the boss steps in and makes things right, well, your experience is not perfect. but it's acceptable. You can still leave a happy customer. So, either with that car working or your money put back in the bank. Wasn't great, but okay, it is what it is. Of course, it's human nature to say that that person was a piece of crap, that salesman. He was horrible. Especially if they don't make things right. But I don't think they planned on selling you a piece of garbage. I think that's very, very rare. I think that's more of a, not a business, not a storefront business, more of an internet scam. And I'm not talking about that. That's not what we're talking about here. This is a storefront operation. This is a Knights Beach Resort Park. I think they just wanted your money and figured everything would be okay. That you'd be happy, or at least happy enough. But back to these reviews. Friday night there was a big party yet again, and the park didn't quiet down until 3 a.m. I went to the GM again, that's Marlene, to complain, in which she responded she would take care of it. The Saturday evening, the Seasoners had a grand old party until 4:45 a.m. We left early Sunday morning and stopped off at the office yet again to express my utter disappointment and disgust with the park. I had drunk Seasoners walk up to our campsite in the middle of the night and wake up our whole camp, along with our friends in the next site over, while they were being really loud and obnoxious. There were multiple arguments that could have been heard from the other side of the park as well. My young son has now left the park with a full vocabulary of profanity, and I love this part. Profanity which he heard while the Seasoners partied it up. The GM's response was, well, he'll pick that language up at some point in his life. I was stunned and dumbfounded by her response. Well, of course she was. My real point about Marlene is this. She's going to say whatever it takes to make the sale. It doesn't bother her too much if you're disappointed. Whether you're spending tens of thousands of dollars on a trailer and a site and so on, or a few bucks on a day pass, or a few more bucks on a weekend camping, your experience is really irrelevant to her. Now, tiny bit of defense, she does come by it honestly. In my experience, my first-hand experience with the park, the owners at Knights Beach, they seem to have the same attitude. But remember, I'm not alone in this assessment. I urge you to not go to this campsite unless you want to go for a big party. This is not a family-friendly park in the least bit. I'd give the park a 0 out of 5. So remember, I've only ever had one goal with all of this, with the YouTube channel, with the website. There's only ever been one goal. My experience, like all of these people, and this is just a handful that I brought with me today. There are many more. My experience was terrible. My friend was sold a lie. And all I ever asked, right from early on, right from the very beginning, we found out in the first literal days after the purchase was made that all those promises were a lie. And all I ever asked was for the park to do the right thing. Just give her a refund.